I am Louis Loeffler. I'm with Cardinal Stritch University. I'll give you a little commercial because you're all stuck here. Cardinal Stritch, I'm the Department Chair of Instructional Technology. We offer a master's program for K-12 teachers. The master's program we actually have completely online right now. It is how to use technology to be a better instructor. One of the other things we offer is the ability for your teachers to be certified to be online instructors, because if you didn't know it, the state passed a law where you have to have that certification. And so we offer that, and of all things, we offer it online. What a strange concept. We will come to your district if you are so moved, but we will only come and talk to you for a little while face-to-face, because we think if you're going to be learning how to teach online, you probably should do it online. So that's one of the pieces that we're doing. I'm going to take just a second to ask these nice people in back, is this the audio you want? Is the video okay? Okay. Then I'm ready to go. If you'll dim the lights a little bit so that people can fall asleep after lunch and we won't be able to harass them, that would be nice. And I am going to do my best to take you through something that Google does, and it does a little bit more than searching the web. So, some of you said you have used some of this. Have any of you signed up for the free product yourself and used some of these online anyways? So some of you do use some of them and are familiar with them. I'm going to go over them. Ask a question at any time. It's easy if you want to ask a question. You either raise your hand. If you don't like doing that, throw a wad of paper at me. I'm used to that. I taught high school. So I'll start out by talking about Gmail. And some of you are probably familiar with this as a product for getting mail. And by the way, this entire presentation is online. If you go to the conference handout section of the SLATE conference, you'll find a link to this presentation. It will be there. I'm not a big fan of giving you handouts and things. I did give the first 50 people who walked into here a half page that just had the website. So if you want, the website's going to be up there and you can get to it. But let's talk about why you might want to use Gmail. And the first thing is, do any of you get spam? Now, when I was growing up, one of our main dishes of survival, because we were a very poor family, was spam. And so I, there used to be spam noodles and corn, where you dice the spam up and you throw it in and add corn and noodles, and that was something my mom would make. My wife wisely had told me I may never make that at our house. But in fact, and if you don't know about spam, spam is made in Austin, Minnesota, and I have personally gone to the Spam Jam, which is their big festival that they have every year. I come from Sun Prairie. Our big festival is the Corn Fest. I think everybody should go to the Spam Jam, because if you are there, you get to hear the Spamettes. Great group sing. Going on with this, you'll have less spam. I have 2 accounts for Cardinal Stritch University. One is the one that is run by the university for the faculty. I can't tell you how much Viagra I've been able to order because of that particular account. Daily, I can do so many interesting things. And they tell me that they are blocking the spam. They assure me they are blocking the spam, and I at least delete 20 of those spams daily. My second account with Cardinal Stritch, we give the students. And so I said I want a student account too. And the student account, I get no spam. Well, that's not true. I think I've had one in the last 3 months. So I kind of like not having spam. It's just me. It does go in a folder, and you can check that folder to see if it's in there. But when I've gone in that folder and checked, I haven't had any of my student email in there yet. I haven't had anything that I thought was important in there. So that's nice. Search. You can use, and I'll lower this a little bit here so you can kind of read ahead. You can search, and it uses Google searching technology. So if, for instance, a student has talked to me and I'm trying to remember what exactly did they say, if I can remember a word, I can do a search and I can find that word. If you want to, you can actually search and pull up all the things that were sent to you by an individual. You can do a whole mess of nice things. It has that built-in search technologies. You can do a conversation view if you want. A conversation view says that all the things that were written on that one particular topic smudge together, and you can kind of go through it. That's really can be useful. Let's say, for instance, you and a school board member are having a conversation. Wouldn't it be nice, instead of as it spread out amongst all the emails, if you collapse it into one conversation? You can do the built-in chat. That's really a nice feature because sometimes it's not about an email. If you are logged into your Gmail account and your students or your other faculty are logged in, you can actually have a chat feature that's built in, and you can chat back and forth and ask questions. So those of you who are wondering, how well you're doing in the fantasy football can right away find out. Those kind of pieces. No, it really is useful. I have students when I'm in it because I'm in this. My students, a lot of them are virtual students. I'm teaching online. They'll pop in and they'll ask me questions. They can get immediate feedback. It's a very nice feature. You can find it on the go. You can get it from kind of anywhere. For instance, I do my Gmail when I'm on my iPad. I do my Gmail when I'm on my phone. I do my Gmail even with an iTouch. Anything that can connect to the internet, I can get my email. What a nice feature. If I go to a conference like this and they have computers set out where I didn't bring my own, I can get to my email. As long as the internet exists, you can get to your stuff. Space, plenty. They just give you tons. Every time I open it up, it keeps saying that I seem to have more space. They seem to be always giving me more. I'm not using that up. And so I don't have to throw away emails. I don't have to archive anything. If you care to, you can call phones from here now. That's a feature they've built in. So if you are sitting and using this, you can actually, from my computer, I can call a phone. If one of you had a phone and I felt like calling you right now, I could just immediately dial. As long as your computer has the ability to do voice, which mine does. It has a speaker built in. And a microphone, I could be calling you. How much does that cost? Nothing. So I can make free phone calls. You can do priority inbox, which they just instituted. It's a way where they try to help you decide what should be at the top. If you get a lot of email, it'll help you sort it out, and you can say, what are your priorities? And it'll help bubble that up. It's very secure. It's as secure as anything that has a password. If you give away your password, guess what? But if you don't give away your password, no one else is getting in. And for those of you, now I know this is a public education conference. By and large, most of you public education, so there's lots of money. But this happens to be one of the things that can be free. So that's one reason you may want to be talking about it and using it. It's a great way to have everybody communicate. Plus, if you do this, by the way, in a school district and you load the names up, let's say, for instance, in my university, we have all the students in it. If I go in there and I start typing a student's name, it fills in the rest for me automatically. I don't have to know their email address. It actually pulls that out. I find that very useful because I typically remember a person's name. I don't always remember somebody blah, 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 da, da, da. So it's really a convenience. So the first piece, as I said, Gmail is a nice thing. Yes, please.
Can you tell us again how you make the phone calls?
Yeah. It's actually one of the features. If you go in there and you enable it, if you go into your Gmail, it now has on the left-hand side, make phone calls. And you can click, and it says, what's the phone number? And you dial. The interesting thing is, for the person who it goes to, it looks like it's coming from California right now, at least every time. My dad's using this all the time because he doesn't want to pay long distance. So he's calling me all the time from his computer. In fact, let's hope he doesn't call right now. Because one of the things I've instituted is video chatting, and my dad video chats with me at least twice a day now, and he typically does it right when I'm doing something like this. So if it rings, I'll just decline the phone. Yeah.
If you were to make a call from using that from your phone, that's not going to be going to your provider.
Right. If you go through your phone, it goes through your provider. However, there are some other ways you can use your phone. For instance, and it's not a Google one, but for instance, I have Skype, and because there's free wireless in here, I can actually use my phone because I have the Skype app on my phone, and so I can call, and I can call anywhere using Skype from my phone. So And if you want, if we have time, I'll jump in and make a phone call.
That'd be great.
So just remind me. Google Talk is another piece in there. Here you can do instant messaging, sharing files, and make phone calls. And that's the piece that's built in. So if you Google Talk, if you go into that, it's the ability to be doing chat. And some of these I'm just not going to open up because I actually do have friends. And they would notice I was on, and one of them might start chatting at us. And that's probably not the best thing to have happen during a presentation. But in Google Talk, again, you can open up, you get your chat box, and you can be doing chat, which again is very useful if you're doing something. I think central office, I just had lunch with some folks whose central office has instituted this, and the superintendent is using the Google Chat because anytime he has a quick question, he just asks it, and the people who are in the central office who he asks it to, when they have a chance, they answer it back. It's a little faster, as you know, than email, and it's just kind of more immediate. You can send files through it. So if you have a file that you want, please look at this particular file, you can send that through it. And again, you can make the whole phone call piece. And what's really kind of neat about it, too, is if you make a phone call with this and they aren't able to answer, because it will assign you a phone number, by the way, that you get to use. If somebody calls that phone number, it takes it and it saves it first as a voice message. So you have that voice message, but it also tries to use voice recognition technology and turn it into a text message for you as well. I find that rather amusing because it's like 90% accurate, but that 10% is really fun to look at and see how they kind of muffle that up. But here again, you have that whole make free internet calls from your computer, so you can do the voice-to-voice. And in fact, it will even let you do, in a small window, video. So if you care to do video call back and forth with people, you can have that going. And places where I've seen that kind of thing start getting instituted, let's say a parent can't make it in for a parent-teacher conference. What a nice way to have that conference so that you can be talking with them. Some of these video conferencing things, some of your parents are probably serving overseas. Again, what a nice way to involve them and let them be part of a parent-teacher conference or something that's going on at the school. So there are lots of different ways you might want to use something like the Google Talk. Calendaring. Do any of you use a calendar? Okay. Calendars are useful. For instance, I looked at mine and found out I was supposed to be here today. Google lets you make calendars, and if you want, you can put any of these things right onto your website. You can actually take and embed them right into websites. I have, as you can see here, a calendar embedded. Now the calendar I chose, rather than showing you my calendar, I chose one that's U.S. holidays. And so if I scroll backwards, for instance, you can see if any of you celebrate Christmas, that's coming up. And so there's only so many shopping days, guys. So you might want to start thinking about that. But I can kind of go through, and these were all pre-populated. They are the holidays, so if I wanted to, I could just pre-populate them. But I have this with my classes that I teach. I populate the calendars, and I say, this is what I'm teaching. And I put it out there so the students all know which days the classes are. They are all pre-populated in. You can have as many or as few as you want. In fact, you can make multiple calendars. We have multiple ones in my family, and I can turn them on or off at will. In other words, I can say I want to see my son's calendar right now, or I don't want to see it. So, because sometimes when you have too many calendars on there, it clutters it up. So if you're doing something like a school district, you could have, here's the calendar that's all the music events. Here's the calendar that's all the sporting events. Here's the calendar that's fill in the blank. And you can turn them all on or off. And the people who are looking at it on the website can decide what they're looking at. Very easy to build and maintain. You can do simple scheduling. You can even schedule meetings, all those kinds of things. It's all kind of built in. I'm trying to remember. In fact, because I don't think I should talk all the time.
This video will show you how to use a Google Calendar as your class calendar. And there are several reasons why this is a good idea for both you and your students. For you, it's easy to use. Google doesn't make more than $20 billion a year making things difficult for people. All of your planning can be in one place. Several class schedules can be shown in different colors on just one calendar. It's easy to copy one event to several classes, it's easy to reschedule events, and not only that, the Google Calendar can even send you email reminders. I guess last but not least, you can put your class calendars on your SchoolWire's teacher page. So every time you edit your Google Calendar, the calendar on your teacher page will automatically change. How many times have you been asked if a student knew what was expected of them? Since you make a calendar of your classes as you plan anyway, why not use a Google Calendar and without any extra effort on your part, students, parents, and special education teachers will know exactly what's going on in your class. It doesn't slice, dice, or make julienne fries, but it solves a lot of problems with just a little effort. The first step to creating a Google...
I won't go through all that, but you can see, it, again, it's relatively simple to put together. And not only will it send you an email, but you can have it set up to send you a text. So if you are looking for something, you could say, I want a text message an hour before the event. So, those kinds of things. So it's a real nice, yes?
I'd like about linking calendars. We have Outlook in our building, and can I...
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Can I link the Google to the Outlook, so if I put something in Google, it will show up in the Outlook, or vice versa?
There are ways to have the data transfer back and forth, yes.
Of where you want it notified to,
Okay.
and then you'll get the notification.
Just say hour 1, hour 2 instead of 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. We've been trying to figure that out for weeks now. How do you do that?
I probably won't show you right now, but if you send me an email, I'll send you something. Great. Okay. I'm getting off scot-free on that one. The next piece I want to talk a little bit about is Google Docs. And if you are unaware of it, Google has an online word processor, and it's called Google Docs. In fact, they have 3 of the pieces that are built into Microsoft Office. They have a word processor, a spreadsheet, and a presentation tool where you can do all those, and again, you can have them online. Now, there's lots of reasons I like to have something online. For instance, any of you have shared drives at your school? Can I get to that shared drive from here? No. So your students who do work, can they get to their work from home? Some of them, yes. I'm seeing some, no. What you can do is, with this, get to it from anywhere that you have the internet. In fact, getting back to my earlier example, I've actually edited documents from my phone. So it's something that you can grab and do. The whole piece, you have everything. Now, Google's philosophy with these suites, by the way, is not that you want to have everything that Microsoft Office has. How many of you use every feature within Office? Good for you. You rock. Most people probably, if they reach 10% of what is available, are maxing out. In fact, you probably do the things you know how to do and you haven't explored any of the new features in the latest version, right? Somebody rolled out the latest version to you. They walked up and they said, here it is. And did you right away rush and look up in the manual what the latest features were that they just gave you? Or did you keep doing it the way you've always done it? Probably kept doing it the way you've always done it. Well, what you have sitting here is a way to do the majority of what you normally do. You have fonts. Now, you don't have every font that Word has. You have every font that the Internet has, so to speak. In other words, the Internet is based on X number of fonts. There's some new technology they're looking to roll out in the next year or so that's going to be a way to increase the number of fonts. But basically, if you ever look at the Internet, there's only like 10 fonts. They're all available here. You can do the bold, italic, the underline kind of stuff. You can edit things. You can add tables, colors, add pictures, all that stuff. You can, they have the bar ruler now in the latest version where you can indent things and all that. Your pictures will word wrap around all the things that you're probably used to doing. Again, very simple, very easy. And it's available, and back to that cost factor. pretty small. Now here's one of the reasons I like it. If you have something like Office and you are doing what the majority of school districts did when Microsoft rolled it out, I think about 5 or 6 years ago, they decided that you would go to an annual license fee instead of paying once for it. So if you're doing that, you're paying an annual fee on every computer. When I was a technology coordinator once, and when I was a technology coordinator, our annual fee was about $46 per machine per year. So multiply that. I was in a district that we had about 2,000 machines. That adds up. Now in this budget kind of crisis time, if I stop paying that annual fee, but instead I have something like this, I'm doing pretty well. And not only that, whenever we got a new version, I had to go and touch every machine. Here's the latest version of Office. Let's go update every machine. Guess what happens on the cloud when I do it? It's automatically updated. New version, I have it. I like that. I like not having to go touch every machine. It's really kind of nice. Google will, in fact, import and export the different things that you have. If you have Word files, it will import them, and we'll try to preserve as much of the formatting as it can. I can tell you right now it doesn't get everything 100% right, but I can also tell you when I've done different versions of Word and imported, it didn't always get 100% of it right either. So let's take just a quick look at Google Docs.
Google Docs lets you create, share, and collaborate on documents online. Instead of creating a document, sending it as an attachment, receiving multiple revisions, and then having to merge edits, with Google Docs, everyone works on the same version in real time. And Google Docs just got better with rebuilt editors for documents, spreadsheets, and drawings, designed to improve collaboration, increase speed, and create richer documents. Google Documents have much better import fidelity, making it easier to move your documents into the cloud. We've also added tab stops, a ruler to control margins in a document, and improved how images interact within documents. The comment system makes it easy to add, reply, and move comments around in a document. And collaboration now has...
And let me pause for a second on that comments piece. When I'm doing any work with my students, they have to turn everything in on Google Docs. And when they turn it in on Google Docs, what I do, you have lots of options. One, for instance, you make it and you're the only one who can see it. You know, it's just yours, and so it's locked down. With my students, I say, I want you to make me an editor or share it with me. When they share it with me, I have the ability to go in and actually do things. And what do? I go in and I use that comments feature. I say, have you thought about this? Could you expand a little bit on this particular piece? And so it goes on the side, they see it, and it's lined up right away for them as something that they can be working on. And the other piece, and you may have caught it or may not have caught it, but you can have multiple people. So let's say, for instance, let's go with the old world. I decide I'm going to make a Word document, and it's curriculum, so I need my 3 other people who are working with me in curriculum to have it. I email to them. How many copies of that document now exist? 4. Thank you for those of you who thought it was a trick question. I made one, I emailed, there's 4 of them out there. Now those 3 other people are making changes, and I've suddenly made some changes to mine. And so we all email each other again. How many copies do I now have? 16 copies of that document are existing because we've all emailed out. And so, do I know which one is the most recent? Do I know that they have all caught my changes? No. You're going to have some way to figure out who's going to compile all that and try to figure out who made what changes where. In Google Docs, when you make it, there's only one copy of it, and you share it with people. And when you share it with people, that means as they make changes, you get to see them right away. In fact, I've done curriculum work with people where I am on, and we're using voice, so we're using that talk feature. We're talking, and we're both looking at the same document. We're in different locations, and we're both typing, and we're seeing what the other person is typing at the same time. And it makes and saves everything for you automatically. Now, how many of you carry around a flash drive? A lot of you. When was the last time you backed that up? Think about that. Have you backed up your flash drive lately? Because they fail. Those of you who think they don't fail will be sad when it does. The reality with anything that's electronic, this computer, flash drive, whatever, it's not a question of will it fail, but when? And it would probably fail on the day you have to do a presentation at a conference like this. So, the only thing that could fail for me was the internet. I was kind of hopeful it didn't, though it probably is a fad. But anyways, so with Google Docs, we have the ability that if I'm editing it, I can see what everybody else is editing, and I always have the latest copy. It saves about every minute or so. The nice thing with it is it actually keeps all those revisions. If I care to, I can go back and I can look through the whole historic development of that document. And if I do it with students, which I do, by the way, I do group assignments, and I say, you three are working together. Well, invariably, somebody comes up and says, Susie didn't do any of the work. I did it all. I can actually go in the Google Doc, look at revisions, and see who did the work. It's that simple. Somebody had a question, a hand kind of popped up. Yeah?
I just have a question because our school has GroupWise, and I have Google Docs for the whole school, so I'm putting it in Google Docs account. And for next year, they put in the budget to update our Microsoft suite.
Mm-hmm.
And you said about using Google Docs instead. Now, what happens when a parent sends us an attachment as Word to our GroupWise account? How do we open it if we don't end up having that Microsoft Office?
Okay. The question is, how do you open a GroupWise? If you have GroupWise and a parent sends you an attachment, how are you going to open it if you don't have Word? Well, two easy ways. One, I believe GroupWise has a viewer within it, so you can view things. So that would be the simple one. The second, the more difficult, if they've sent it and if you also migrate from GroupWise to this, you're going to have the Gmail, and it has a built-in viewer. So anything that you have, you can actually just look at right away, or you can open it. Because you can just click open it. It actually converts it on the fly and brings it in as a Google Doc. You can also, however, though, store everything as the original version. So if you don't want it converted, you can actually upload things. And I didn't even mention that, but this is kind of like a file storage for me, too. I have everything stored up here. I do all my work on the web. And so if there are documents that I want, I can actually upload them and just keep them as is. The other nice thing, and I'll finish this video and then I'll tell you, but the other nice thing is you can actually export everything as well. So if you've made it in here and you want to export it as a Word document, you can. Or you can export it as an open office document, for those of you who have migrated to that. Or you can even export it as a PDF. Why is that useful? Well, let's say you want to send something to a student, but you don't want, like, their grade report, but you don't want them altering it. Not that any of students would do that, but save it as a PDF, send it out. So, yes?
Maybe I'm getting ahead of you here, but okay, you can do the word processing in the spreadsheets. Is there, there's going to be something that they have that will be the equivalent of PowerPoint?
There is a presentation tool as well.
There is.
Yeah.
Microsoft Office, almost absolutely.
Yeah. Again, it doesn't do all the bells and whistles. For instance, you don't get to have rapid machine gun fire when new objects come screaming in. But it does do the whole presentation piece. And in fact, you can make, for all these things, templates. So if you have a template that represents your school district, you can have that as a template and bring in and have all of your presentations use that template. You can do the same thing if you have if you wanted letterhead. You could do that, make a letterhead template, and use it within the Google Docs. I'll finish this, and then I'll
Happens in real time. You can see what others are typing with no need to refresh the page or wait, reducing confusion and saving you time. We've also made some big improvements to Google Spreadsheets. Now you can edit a cell from the formula bar, use autofill, drag and drop columns, and navigate easily between sheets. Significant speed and performance improvements make spreadsheets load faster and scrolling seamless. And as always, real-time collaboration, chat, and cell presence work for many people at once. We've also added a standalone editor for drawings to Google Docs. It's easy to make charts, diagrams, and other schematics. As with Google Docs and spreadsheets, you can also chat while you collaborate on drawings. We hope these improvements to Google Docs help you and your teams be more productive. To try them out or to learn more, visit docs.google.com.
So again, in all of these, if you are doing real-time collaboration, you have that ability on the right-hand side to be having a chat going on where you can be asking questions of the other members who are working with you at that time. So, and if you one of the 21st century skills that they're really emphasizing in everywhere that I hear is collaboration, that we want people to be collaborating. It's not about, can you write a paper all by yourself in the corner? But companies and businesses are saying we need people who can work together, who can do things together. And that's what this is designed to do, to have people going along that route. I know I put more stuff in here. I won't go through the education demo. I put some of these things in here, by the way, for you on your leisure when you want to come back and see this presentation and pull some things, because I tried to put in a lot of resources that you'll be able to use. So I won't really cover everything in here. But, some interesting ways if you were just going to use it in the classroom. Spreadsheets, you can have up to 50 people working at the same time. You could be putting in pulse rates. You could have edit a presentation. 10 people can do, and you asked about that presentation. I'm going to slow that down. You asked about the presentation people. Up to 10 people can be working on making a presentation together. So if you have a whole group that's trying to do something, that's something you could all be tweaking and working through. And I won't go through all of these. Again, it's a resource here, but it's here to try to let you get some ideas of some things you can do. You can do stats to see what is in there. You can do footnotes within it. You can, again, that whole idea of collaboration. Publishing, I think, is really powerful. I'll just stop for a minute and talk about that. You can take your Google Doc, and I can, I've written a Google Doc. It is mine. I now have the ability, and I can invite you to work with it. And I can invite you one of two ways. I can say that she can edit it as well with me, or she can only view it. So if, it depends on what you want. If you just want feedback, you might want someone just to view it, or if you want to add them as an editor to help you out. You can take it the next step. You can actually publish it on the internet. And you can publish it a couple different ways. One, you can publish it and say, you can only find it if somebody gives you the link. What are the odds of somebody just stumbling across it? Not that good. If they only give you the link, that means it's not going to show up on a Google search. They have to have the actual link to get to it. Or you can publish it truly on the internet, and it becomes part of Google searching, and somebody can find it. I have a question way back there.
You've been kind of playing around experimenting using Google Docs for board meetings.
My question.
Well, the security is going to be the way you decide you're going to use it. If you say that only the school board members can see the document, then only the school board members can see the document.
So there's no possibility.
It's very secure. I won't say there's no possibility, because there's also a possibility that as you email a document back and forth, somebody might get it. So, those issues exist. But I think it's very secure.
That was my question. We did a presentation on this at school, and so special ed teachers, I was showing them Google Form, and they were seeing all kinds of ways where they could use the form and just share that form, and instead of having all the individual teachers for a meeting, everyone is building and responding to the student needs. But then, is there a security issue when you're putting out that student record information?
Again, the question being how safe is the data, and it's going to be as safe as you make it. It's, in other words, if I share with 5 people, only they can see it. If one of them and you as the owner can decide if they can also share it with others. If, however, they leave their computer open or whatever, then it's going to be out there. So it's going to be as secure as you decide. Just like high school lockers. My daughter's in high school. Her locker is as secure as the number of people she's given her combination to. The school has said, don't give it to anybody. I haven't asked her, but I'm willing to bet she probably has shared it with at least one friend. So, it's that kind of thing.
My other question was, I was reading the terms of agreement, and of course you have to labor through it all. But the gist I got is, as you're using Google, they are making it available to you now, basically at their discretion, but not saying that it's always. I don't know. I'm just wondering. Did you read?
I've looked at it. I think where you're going is, will it be around in 20 years?
Yes.
I think,
going to be free,
you know,
and continue to be.
I believe it is, but because there's some background pieces that you have to really consider too. For instance, Google's whole lifeblood, if you haven't figured this out by now, every time you Google a website, they are tracking where you're going. Their whole world is data. That's what we claim, that we want to become data-driven. They are actually truly a data-driven company. And so while they will not use your data, they will not identify it, they are probably paying attention to how many people type in the word Stegosaurus or whatever. You know, it's going to be how they want to data mine. But I believe personally that Google will be around longer than some of the school districts that are currently in this room, because we know some of our districts in this state have collapsed together. So it's kind of that way of looking at it. So will it be free forever? I think at this point it probably will be. Or if it isn't free, it's still going to be a minimal charge. We at Stritch, actually, the way we purchased it, and we did purchase it for our students, we pay $5 a year for it. Now that $5 a year is much cheaper than what we were paying for someone to have a server, do the maintenance, keep it up and going, add another server for the storage of the mail and all these different things. So $5 is relatively inexpensive when you consider what we were doing. We're not doing the people that we had to pay, those things. Yes?
What's the $5 for?
We are charged that per student for having the Google apps as a university.
What would school
Yeah.
Currently free.
It's free, but
The other thing I just wanted to, again, talk about was compatibility. You can import and export traditional formats. You can look at them, again, on any web-enabled device. So if I have a need, I can, again, pull up my phone, and I can look and find some information on one of my Google Docs if I need it. And you can get to them. And I have some videos that you can go to take a look at that. And also, as I said, you can edit simultaneously with other people and share very easily. And if you can't see this in the back, that's okay. That's why I'm talking. You can set the privacy levels to where you want them. And you can embed your Google documents into the emails and things. So it's really kind of a nice piece. And the last thing I'll talk about is Google Sites. And Google Sites is a way for you to make websites. And I'm using a Google site right now. This entire presentation has been made in a Google site. It just seemed to make sense that if I was going to be talking about it, I probably should use the product. And what we do, for instance, Gesundheit, what we do is we are doing all of our portfolios in my department in Google Sites. The students, because they're required to use the Google documents for all of their materials that they create, can then very easily bring in things into the Google Sites. And so let's take just a second here. I'll roll this up a little higher because some of you are in the back.
Google Sites makes websites and wikis simple, and it's free. Create and publish a new page with just a few clicks. Add info just like you do in a document. Just start typing. And you can insert pictures, videos, or other types of content. Make as many pages as you like, and arrange them as you please. All your info is stored securely, online, in one place. You can make your site public or private, and control who can edit your site. Getting started is easy, and there are a number of helpful templates. More than just a visual theme, site templates can include site structure, custom page templates, embedded gadgets, and more. So whether you're making a site for business, school, a club, or your family, you spend less time getting set up. Get your site at sites.google.com.
And what I really like about the sites is, for instance, I have to do an annual report every year. In my annual report, I have a spreadsheet that deals with all the different data of what we are doing. What I do is I take that spreadsheet and I just embed it within the annual report. Now, what's really nice about that, I don't know if any of you ever get handed a spreadsheet where they've tried to take a whole lot of data and they keep shrinking it and shrinking and shrinking it till it finally fits on an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. And if you're really lucky with an electron microscope, you can read it. Well, on my site, you can just scroll because it gives you the scroll bars, and you can go back and forth and see the data. You can't alter it. I've just given you the ability to view it and see what is going on with my data. I can take anything that I've written in Google Docs and put it up. And what's really kind of nice about that is that if I make a change in the Google Docs, it's immediately reflected in the Google site. In fact, to give you an example of what that looks like, I gave you this page bibliography, and this bibliography is actually a Google Doc, and it's just embedded within this page. And anytime I was finding another resource that I thought you might find useful, I put it up here. And as I would make a change in the Google Doc, just word processing, it's automatically put into the Google site. Very nice feature. Imagine using that as your school website. Anybody, you give each of the teachers a place where they can be putting information. That's their Google page. They edit it. It's automatically updated on the website. Very nice and handy and easy way.
Is that in real time?
It's in real time.
There's no edit phase. Like, what you do is there. See, for me, that would be scary because I mess up a lot. So I would start typing, something would be wrong, it's showing up in the document that somebody else has on their computer.
Sure. Then what you do at that point is you turn off for a minute during that time frame, and then you make all your mistakes, and then you turn it back on. I'm also kind of the opinion that if anyone's nice enough to be watching my page while I'm typing, because there's actually one or two more interesting things even on TV. But so those things don't bother me that much. And those of who's ever had me as a student know that I make plenty of mistakes and they're used to it. So that's the Google Sites kind of idea, that you can very easily do that. And I even pulled up some examples of some places, and I noticed in my searching, I used Google to search, I found that even the nice school district of Viroqua, and I picked this because this is my wife's hometown, this is made in a Google site.
What's the difference between that and iGoogle?
Great question. The question is, what is the difference between Google Site and iGoogle? Google Site is a web page, that's a website that's out there. iGoogle is a page that is just for you. So when you log in, it shows you your stuff. And in iGoogle, you can populate it with things that you find interesting. So for instance, on your iGoogle page, you may have what the weather is in your hometown, and your email, and stuff like that. And so iGoogle is just something that you tailor just for yourself as an opening web page, as a navigational tool. So that was one. Let's see, I think I also, I don't know where this particular place is, but it's a private school.
Stevens Point.
Is that okay? Thanks.
There's a lot of chilies.
Okay. That's also a Google site. So they're using Google Sites to do this, and they're mapping it all together. Looks kind of nice, doesn't it? Yes?
So when districts are going to this Google stuff, are they just getting rid of Microsoft then, or is Microsoft?
I can't answer that question because I think it's going to vary from district to district. I can tell you, I happen to live in Sun Prairie. They have told the teachers that next year Microsoft no longer exists. This year they gave them Google. All the students have Google. And so, and I don't know what their staff development plan is. I highly recommend, if you want to know more about that, you're in the wrong session because the gentleman from Oregon is talking about it right now. Maybe through that wall. I don't really know where he is. But he's talking about how they implemented it and what they did. So it's really going to be kind of a choice that you would have to make. Yes?
So I was at a session a couple days ago where a school district was saying that they didn't think Google Docs was quite ready for a large school district yet. I don't know what technical problems they were describing, but you obviously feel that it works great.
I do think it works great. And Cardinal Stritch University has 7,000 students. That might be bigger than your school district. And we're having, the downtime is so small. Has it occurred? Yes. Every now and then can't get to your document. What I do then is I go pour a cup of coffee, and then I get to my document. So there have been issues. I'm not going to pretend that they don't exist. I have issues. I've actually had in my house the electricity go out. It has nothing to do with Google, but it sure affects my ability to get any work done. So I don't mean to make light of it because every technology is going to have a problem associated with it. even pencil sharpeners. I've had some that don't sharpen pencils when I taught. They mutilated them. So it's that, and then I put in the work request, and in June a new one came. So yeah.
Well, just on that, the whole state of Washington, Oregon, every single school in the state adopted it this year. Wisconsin is looking at adopting it for every school in the state for next year or the year after. So when you talk about, is it big enough? Whole states, there's 3 or 4 other states that are getting in line to adopt it as a whole state for every single school in the state. So I think probably it's big enough.
In fact, you bring me to kind of the commercial. And I apologize if I sound like a commercial for Google. Sadly, they don't pay me a cent. But this might give you kind of the idea. These are some of the companies that have adopted Prudential. Yes.
So if your district didn't go towards this, could me as a classroom teacher, could I do this, or how do you get students emails?
You as a teacher could not, a whole school, they'll say that they want the whole school to do it. So you couldn't say just as your classroom. What you'd have to do is have each of the students individually get a Google account, and if they get a Google account, they get all these things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you talk about that Google account? I work with middle school and younger students, and our students at school do not have email accounts. Obviously, probably most of them do at home. So they could set up a Google account using an existing email account that they might have?
Yes.
Right, so it doesn't have to be Gmail.
Right. And in fact, you can set one up if you don't have an existing email account. They will let you create it, and they'll give you the Gmail account. Yeah?
We talked on that very subject. You can just assign a random number to the student, and they remember their number, so they don't have to have any name in their email account.
Now, I want to show you some other tools. I'm not going to get through everything. That's why the website exists again, if some of these things interest you. And the other thing I should tell you, where it comes down here and says presenter, you can get to me. Ooh, sharp. It looks like I'm really important. I'm not. But you can get to me. My email address is here. My phone number is here. So I'm glad to help anybody with some things. But let me talk about some additional tools. One of you mentioned Google Forms, or else I did. Google Forms is a great way for you to have a free way of gathering data. In fact, Google Forms, the way it works, it's kind of like a survey. It lets you put out a survey. So if any of you do surveys, do you ask the public about stuff ever? Or do you try to keep the public out of public schools? If you're doing surveys, what a great and easy way to do it. You can make the survey. It gives you, as it says, 60 themes already there, 7 different question types. You can have a question type like a pull-down menu or a button that you have to press, or sentence, paragraph, whatever kind of question you want to ask. It's there, and when you put it in there, you can then retrieve it, and it actually saves it in a spreadsheet. So if any of you who like playing with data, the information is automatically put into a spreadsheet. You don't have to log in or anything. In fact, what I do, you can either email the link to it, and people can come and start. I'll get right to you. People can click on the link and come to it. Or if you have a school website, you can embed the form right into the website, and so they can just fill it out right like that. Yes.
We do survey monkey, limit the questions and how many answers they're putting in that spreadsheet.
I haven't run across the limit. If there is one, I haven't run across it. Right now I have a survey out there. I'm embarrassed to tell you with 100 questions. And I'm embarrassed to tell you because I force students to take it, and that's just, how evil I am. But the form, I get all the data then, right in spreadsheet form, and I can manipulate it using the spreadsheet. And the spreadsheet does have the ability to do charts and graphs and all the things that they sing about in Alice's Restaurant. So those of you who are old enough know what I just said. Yeah.
You mentioned SurveyMonkey, and we do a lot of those in our district too. And I know some staff people that are really reluctant to fill those out online because they don't guarantee that someone can't track to see what their answers are. Is there any assurance that something like this could be real?
You mean to be truly anonymous? Yeah, you can make it anonymous, or you can also make it that says you can only fill this out once from a computer, so that if you're doing a district survey and you have
and that's trackable back to the IP address.
And that's how it limits it. And right. Well, and they can, and I usually try to assure them that I don't have enough. I was a technology coordinator, and I had staff who say, "You're reading our email." I don't know where they thought I had that time. I didn't have enough time to read my email. And so, if they're worried that you're going to be tracking back to their IP address, God bless them, because they're doing way more crazy things than I am.
That's just what I hear.
Yeah, and I agree. And truthfully, anything is trackable. You're leaving electronic footprints when you turn on any device. So that is certainly true. Google Alerts is something I use all the time. This is how I try to keep on top of things. When there's a topic I have to keep track of, I use Google Alerts. What it does is it lets me put in something, and then it sends it to me once a day, or as often as I say, on a topic. So for instance, I've noticed in my district, let's see if I can spell correctly. Response to intervention is a big thing that we're doing. So I can, if I want, do that. It gives you a preview, and if I say I want this once a day, or how often I want it, Google, as it's searching, will send me an email once a day with all the articles that have popped up on blogs or news or whatever on this. So what a great thing, Google Alerts, to help me. So if I can say once a day, I can say as it happens, so I can get the alert just when it finds it, or I can even say once a week if I don't want to be inundated. All I have to do is put in my email right now, and I would be getting a response to intervention in my email as often as I ask. So Google Alerts is something I think is really kind of useful. Google eBooks, this happened this week. If you didn't know it, Google opened a bookstore. And you can read them. In fact, I already have on my Android phone the app. I have on my iPad the app. I have on my iTouch the app. And I downloaded a book. The book I downloaded was free, because there's lots of free books that are out there. I downloaded Alice in Wonderland. And as you start reading it, it syncs it up. So when I finish reading on the iPad, and I get to page 27, when I turn on my phone and start reading, it picks it right up in page 27. It has synced that. And there's lots of books that are out there. In fact, what does it look like? Well, here is an example. I pulled up Alice in Wonderland. And there is my book. And so as I go through, And you can do different things. For instance, you can go back to the books, you can look at the table of contents, you can do some settings, you can even search. So if you are doing a book and you want to know exactly, for instance, I couldn't remember the name of the caterpillar thing. So I typed in caterpillar. Help me spell here. Did I get it right? If you can't see it, Google, correct me. Yep, I got it wrong. There we go. And here are the pages that Alice is dealing with that particular piece. So that's Google Books. They just came out with it. A custom. Go ahead.
Are there audio versions too?
Not with the Google Books yet. Okay. Custom search engines. I use this as an educator. I don't believe you should ever send a student out to search for things. I think the worst thing an educator can do is say, here's a topic, go find stuff on it. What a waste of time. However, as an educator, I'm willing to say, I want them to find stuff, but I only want them to look within certain areas. You can actually make your own search engine so it only searches the sites you want it to search. So if you know that the area, you're a social studies teacher and you only want them looking on 4 different sites, you can give them a search engine and it'll only search on those sites. What a useful thing. Google Notebook. You can actually clip and save notes for yourself and get to them from anywhere. So as you're on a website, you can add them to the Google Notebook and come back to those and have that available to you. So again, a resource for students if they're studying and they're on the web and they've logged in, they can be clipping this and come back and finish their research paper. If you are doing research for a lesson you're going to do, or if you're doing something for the school board or whomever, a nice place for you to store your notes and come back and get to them. Book search, which will help you find books. iGoogle, which you mentioned earlier. iGoogle being a way that you can set up and set a page up so it looks just like you want it to. That's kind of illustrated up here, where you can set it up so it has your calendar on it, it has the weather, it has whatever you want it to be. Make your own page for startup. And wherever you start up your computer, when you go to your Google, you're going to have your stuff. You can do a news where it brings different news groups. You can set up a group so you're dealing with a whole group of people. Maybe you make the group be your faculty members and they're all shared together. Lots of other pieces that I have listed here, but Blogger, I have all my students blog, and that's one way I can keep track of what's going on. And there's even a new one, Page Creator, where you can make a page instead of just a whole site, just make a web page. So along here, I also have a whole series of different documents to help you as you go. For instance, Google Earth across the curriculum. If you haven't heard of Google Earth, it's a way that you can be looking at the Earth. And what's really kind of neat is they've taken and made literature trips with Google Earth. So if you want to do the Grapes of Wrath, for instance, you can actually, if you're studying the Grapes of Wrath with your student, do a Google Lit trip using Google Earth, and it'll take you along all the places that they traveled in that novel and show you the places. And what a neat experience for people.
Again, Google Lit trip?
Google Lit trip. So lots of neat things. I've tried to give you plenty of resources on each page. And in fact, as I come down here, there are some webinars that are held that you can go and learn about all this stuff and participate in the webinar. A webinar being an online version where you get to learn with people. Here's some that are coming up. And for those of you who want to take a risk, I think you should take a risk. Columbus did. Google is sponsoring 50 people from around the world. They will fly you to Melbourne or Australia and train you as one of their Google trainers. You just have to apply and be one of the 50 they choose. Kind of cool. And yes?
Running a class, does the function of a content management system like Moodle, does that sort of exist in all these tools or not?
In these tools, no. There are some other things that would be like a Moodle. That you could use, but that's not part of what they're doing. However, here's what I do. I use something like Moodle. It's actually called, what is that one called? That doesn't matter. Let's call it Moodle. I take and I make all my documents in Google, and I have the links in that content management system. So my syllabus in that content management system links to my Google Doc. All those pieces. And so anything I've created, I have linked. And imagine, for instance, if a teacher, I suppose you could use Google Sites as something like that. And the teacher, if they use Google Sites, they can be putting all their information up there for the year as they are doing everything. The resources are there for the students because they can grab them at any time. And at the end of the semester, the students can look back at all the things they've covered. They're going to have all the resources. They'll be able to study for the final exam. And the teacher the next year has the ability just to update all the Google Docs, yet the site is still there for them. So lots of possibilities. There is a bibliography here, and I hope it's been useful. I think I'm supposed to stop talking now. If you have any further questions, I have a couple cards here if I can help. If anybody wants one, take it, contact me. Otherwise, my information is really online. You've been very kind. Only a few people threw up. So